let's get to this next story right now. As you know, I've been covering
But
Maui. I've been there twice. If you haven't seen my first documentary, Lahaina on Fire, it is there. It's got close to 50,000 views. I might have hit 50,000 views last night, in fact. It's on the doorstep. Brand new channel. I'm very proud of that movie. The second one is coming out. Thank you to all who helped and donated to get me and a camera guy there, get us on the ground so we can show you what's going on. A lot of people are not covering this. It's another land grab. It's in a different way, but it's obvious it's a very well-matched gentrification. Now, one of the big problems is, before we get to another major problem we're going to point out, one of the big problems, Wyatt, is, and we discovered this when we left, I knew I'd have to go back soon, because, and if anybody wants to test out, of course, the super chat button on the YouTube channel, it's really nice to have monetization on YouTube until they take it down. So get your donations in while you can, and it's going to go towards making the movie and funding. We do the independent journalist over here. We don't have journalism over here. We don't have the big corporations or a lot of funding. So you guys fund us. So thank you so much. And of course, we'll put that super chat right up in the screen. But what's going on over there that's going to be a very big issue is housing. We have 6,000 to 7,000 people, somewhere in between, of people, survivors, who have lost their housing in Maui, in Lahaina. So they've been shuffling them around on the Red Cross and FEMA and different Airbnbs, mostly in hotel rooms. And if you don't know about the system, anybody who's worked with homeless people before knows the system of housing when it comes to hotels is terrible. They move you in a drop of a dime. You go to a new place, they have you sitting in the lobby for hours. They can come and inspect the rooms at any time they want, so you don't have any privacy. Some people in the hotel rooms in Maui, I heard, in Lahaina, right outside Lahaina, where they were putting people up in the hotel room, survivors, were getting thrown out for using a rice cooker. I mean, they are really strict with the rules. It's no type of living, anything that you want. So what has happened is, since that a lot of this housing is going to run out at the end of December, mid-December, a lot in the end of December, and we have 6,000 to 7,000 people displaced. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to stay? Well, what these groups are doing, this one group in particular called Lahaina Strong, and they've come together with a bunch of other grassroots groups to enact and kind of use a loophole in the Hawaii laws, the ancestry laws, which state that if you are fishing on the beach, you can stay overnight. So right up and just north of Lahaina, Hana Anakapali, I believe it's called, a ritzy place called the Whalers Village. It's an outdoor shopping mall, the Westin Hotel, very fancy, right on the beach over there. All these groups, the Lahaina Strong, with all these grassroots groups, have set up fishing poles and now tents where they are staying there. And they're going to stay there, and they keep growing in size until the mayor or the governor enact an emergency law using what's called the Minatoyas list. All the Airbnbs in Maui have to be registered, and they have a list of them, and it's called the Minatoyas list. And they have close to 2,400 short-term properties. Well, they want the mayor to enact an emergency law and turn that short-term housing into long-term housing for the Lahaina survivors. Now, Wyatt, if you go through the old school capitalist way, the libertarian way, the government can't get involved, right? They have to keep their hands off and let the free market work itself out. But socialism, right? It says that the state can come on in and an emergency act turn that short-term housing into long-term housing. I say, let's have some good governance. In other words, if you want to house all these people, it will probably cost you $250 million tops, right? To house all these people, if you overpay. Why don't we overpay for housing for a year to these tenants? Tell these tenants we're going to give you 50% above market rate. We're going to give you insurance. We're going to pay for your insurance. So if there's any damage, we want you to turn your short-term housing into a long-term housing for 1 year for a Lahaina survivor. We'll let you be part of the process of picking the tenant, and we're going to put your name in bright lights. If they overpay for housing and they get it done for $250 million so they can house all these survivors for a year, now they're going to also have to tap into the small houses too. You have the tiny houses for the individuals. The HOAs, Wyatt, have been shutting them down. So they have all this small, tiny housing. The first tiny housing that Jeremy Lafredo had reported on that they were shipping over from Europe, they're all off to the side. They can't get them up because the HOAs are shutting them down. So what I say we need is good governance to come in there and find a solution, overpay, make everybody happy, get these people housed, and do that. What are your thoughts on what the government should do where these Lahaina Strong people want them to enact this emergency law? The mayor is only proposing this, that he's going to wipe out the property tax for a year if they go to long-term housing, but he's afraid to enforce anything because he knows he'll get sued by these landlords if, in fact, he tries to do something.
Well, I mean, he has to do something. Like, yeah, the alternative is basically condemning these people to homelessness and destroying the Lahaina culture. You know, I mean, you're talking about probably disproportionately, I would imagine disproportionately Native Hawaiian people, people who make it Hawaii, not not the white girls we saw looking for their Rolexes, in the ruins. These are the people who are from there, who actually understand the culture, who make it so that when you go there, it's not just like some random other beach resort. It's actually Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I think they need to decide: do we want this to still be a Hawaii, or do we want this to be a nameless, faceless beach resort for more rich people like we already have everywhere else? And it seems like they are deciding on number two, that they just want this to be beach resort property. The less Hawaiians, the better. And like, let's just kind of streamline this process and get rid of the riffraff that's not getting with the program. Obviously, if you have any morality to you, you would say that this is incredibly wrong. These people did everything right. These are not people trying to get something over on somebody. These are not people necessarily who are like welfare queens or whatever, right? These are just people who got hit by a freakishly unfortunate accident, or not even an accident, but just a natural phenomenon, I believe, and they suffered the worst luck that one really can. They escape with their lives, but everything else, that there's nothing left. So you decide:
Yeah.
are they
Yeah.
going to leave, or are they going to stay? If they're going to stay, they need to have somewhere to stay. And
Yeah.
obviously, the number one solution would be the 2,400 houses where nobody is staying, or shouldn't be staying. Certainly, if you're going to ask me who should be in this house, the person who lives here and belongs here and has spent their entire life here, or some random tourist who wants to come to Lahaina. I don't know why you would want to come to Lahaina for tourism, unless you wanted to genuinely stand with the people. And if you wanted to stand with the people, then you don't want to take their housing away from them, right? So I
Yeah.
think pretty much anybody who would be staying in those houses would probably say the same thing. If you ask them, if you were able to ask them, do you think you should stay here, or should the Native Hawaiians and residents who lost everything stay here? I think people would say obviously they should. And I'm pretty confident in saying that. I think pretty much any 95% of people, you ask them, do you really think that you should stay in this house over that guy over there who's been homeless since his house burned down? I think most people would agree. The most
Yeah.
deserving, obviously, are the people that are from there. And if that
Yeah.
disrupts property values, then so be it. I'm sorry. I think those people's lives take precedence over other people's investment.
Yeah, it's a very touchy subject. It's worthy of a conversation. Telling a landlord what they have to do. A lot of them invested. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I'm saying, if you had some good governance and you would overpay, you'd get a lot of those people
Right.
to willingly go ahead and go along with it. You're going to provide my insurance, so I'm not liable for anything. Yeah, and we're going to let you help pick the tenant. Now, there's going to be a
Right.
lot of issues that come with that, right? Like, what can you do with this tenant now? If this tenant is acting up, can you throw them out? There's going to be a lot of that going on where a lot of people are going to, I'm going to be hesitant to rent to somebody who the state is picking, because now the state is pick them, is going to protect them if there's an issue in my house. But that's why you provide the insurance too. You make it so that it's a win-win situation for both sides and everybody is happy. We need good governance here, but you're right, Wyatt. Something needs to be done, and
If the
it is
government
a crazy situation. Yeah.
if the government can use eminent domain to seize dozens of houses around here where I live in Virginia, to give them to the Mountain Valley Pipeline people, to the EQT Corporation, if they can use eminent domain to just take people's houses to enable some massive project that isn't even going to benefit any people around here, but is going to benefit some little company from
Yeah.
Pennsylvania as they ship all this natural gas overseas, then I think we can use eminent domain or some similar law. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even say,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't even think you need to take these people's houses. You do need to temporarily at least occupy them until people get back on their feet,
Yeah.
and you need to figure out a way forward for them. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like your proposal. Overpay,
Yeah.
and you know, and we'll figure it out as we go along. But as it is, you know, I
I
think the
think if they
status quo
offer
is
to
not working.
overpay, I think if they offer to overpay and say we're going to give you 50% above the market rate for what your house would yearly rent for, plus we're going to provide insurance. I think that a lot of people, and and we're going to put your name in lights. Yeah, hey, this landlord over here helped us out with the Lahaina housing program. Look at him. And it's
Right.
very interesting what's going on. The people on Lahaina and the beach, Lahaina Strong, that I've spoke to, they feel what the mayor just did is a slap in the face. That just wiping away $17,000 in taxes is not going to be enough to get people to jump on this, especially when a landlord, he only has to rent his property out probably 10 days, 1/3 of the month, to be equivalent, to make equivalency of what he would make if it was a long-term rental. Usually that's
Yeah,
around the rate,
on
because they
Airbnb.
make
Yeah,
so much.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Right.
they got to come up with a solution. Here's the next point I want to play for you, Wyatt, because this is very sad right now. And this guy, we're talking about the small housing. The HOAs are shutting them down. This guy did a report on Jimmy Dore too as well when I was hosting that show. My friend Alfie over here, who I met, and I actually, when I got off the plane the first time and I walked into this Lahaina community meeting, which was right above Front Street, not too far from Front Street. You can see on everything there. It was a disaster zone. This guy was building these domes to have these small houses put up. Well, the HOA shut him down. He wanted to put up about 10 small houses with the bathrooms in the middle, give internet to everybody, just to tape it up. He wanted to do it for a year, but he was shut down by the HOAs, and a lot of HOAs shutting it down. He is kind of the front man for this website, this Instagram handle called Rebuild Maui. And he's going to highlight a problem right now that we have to bring to light. I don't know how we solve this problem, but this is a serious problem of what's going on in Maui. Take a look firsthand. Breaking news here with Wyatt Reed. Thank you for the super chats. We're going to read them right after this video. Take a look.
Hey guys, this is a plea for help. It's a plea to stand with Lahaina
Make it big if you
in
can.
our time of need. We're asking everyone, please don't come and stay on the west side of Maui. We just aren't ready for it. We've got 6,700 people. That's 3,500 families who are still displaced and staying in the hotels. Let me get something very clear. We do not want to stay and remain in the hotels. That is not a comfortable place to stay. If you see what families are saying about their stay there, it's terrible. They're having to move too often. Sometimes they're waiting 8 hours in a lobby or in a car, waiting to be told where they're going to be going if they get a place. They're being separated from their animals. Some people have gone without being relocated. So I'm saying this, we do not want to stay there. You're going to hear families be very clear about that topic. We do not want to stay in the hotels. Now, the hotels are sending a very different message, or I should say maybe the government as a whole sending a very different message that the west side of Maui is open and you should come visit it. I had a family reach out to me very recently and said, hey, I tried to cancel my reservation to Kaanapali and I was told absolutely not to. I was given an upgrade and I was discounted so that I could keep my reservation. And of course they did. She said when they got here, when her and her family arrived, she said she was met with a feeling that she was not welcome, that people weren't warm, it did not feel like the old Maui. And we can't. We're not ready for tourists. We're not ready to take care of people on the west side of Maui. There are people who are hanging on by a real thin thread right now. You saw our last post about suicides. There's been 18 suicides. This does not include the attempted suicides. Last week, there was a young man who made an attempt at his own life. His family lost their home in the fires. We need your help. If you stop coming to the west side of Maui, it sends a very strong message that you're standing with us, that you support us. When this is over, when we're able to find housing, we want you back. So I'm not trying to send the message that we don't want you here. We just aren't equipped to take care of someone else because we're not equipped to take care of ourselves at the moment. Now, it's been over 4 months since the fires. I, for one, have not been allowed to see my home. That's 4 months. Now, I should give you an idea of where we are with the rebuild process. We're nowhere close. So, how long is this going to take? We're not sure. It's going to take longer than we all thought. Now, we have a really high expectation on our government to help with a solution to get people out of the hotels into some kind of shelter. We're not asking for anything glamorous. We're saying, hey, just give us something that is dignified that we can move into. As a country, we have put people on the moon. We have split the atom. We grow meat in a lab. But we can't figure out how to create a housing solution for people who've been devastated by a fire. It's shocking to me that it's taking this long. With your help, we work together to send a really strong message that we need housing solutions here on Maui. And I hope you can accept this message as a plea for help. We are all brothers and sisters in this big, big world. We don't need to lose any more people to suicide, to all the things that people are dealing with now. And I hope we do see you back. I don't want this to keep you away. I just need your help. Thank you for listening. Please share this.
Here. Careful, careful.
That's good.
No, so
Where are they?
they're here. It's just,
So who is this guy? This is a
Let's bring
you
this
met
down.
him?
Yeah, he's in the first Lahaina. And Jayme, if you can go get a little clip of that, the first Lahaina on fire of Alfie, show me talking to Alfie. That would be awesome, real quick. Jayme, you heard? Good. There he is. Give me the thumbs up there, CheeseSlice. Yeah, his name is Alfie, and he lived in Lahaina, and he lost a couple properties in Lahaina, 2 in Lahaina in particular, and he's been part of this whole Rebuild Maui program. Now, when I first met him, he was building this small housing development, this small housing community. They were like dome-shaped houses. It's in the first movie. It's in the second movie because we went and saw it all on the ground and scrapped up because the HOAs have shut it down. But then he's been working with the Lahaina Strong people who have occupied the Kana'apali Beach, and they're demanding that housing. And here's the thing, too, as well, Wyatt. If they were to house all these survivors in the Airbnb, they can have their cake and eat it, too. Then I think if they housed all these people, right, in these Airbnbs, I think they'd be okay with a lot of the tourism coming, because the tourists would then eventually have to go to the hotels. They'd have to occupy the hotels completely. So it's a win-win situation. It's how the state can have its cake and eat it too. But when these people aren't even housed, and you got people waiting on tables that, have no place to go and no place to live soon, and people are asking them what's going on and occupying Airbnbs that they could actually be in, it really hits deep, and it's a very serious problem.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me that people would not be warm to you if you're coming in there, because you're literally taking the only handful of places they can stay, even if you don't realize it. And even if they're, your Airbnb host kind of tries to lie to you and suggest that that's not the case, that is the reality, at least as far as those people see it. And, there's a finite amount of land. There's a finite amount of space. There's only so many rooms to be occupied. And why contribute to that crisis, obviously. Yeah.
Billions to Ukraine, Biden wants to send, but he wants to give these families only $700, and not, like I said, there's no.
That's unbelievable. $700.
Literally,
that's all they've gotten.
$750 million. $700 for household. They've been applying for Red Cross and other stuff that's been helping them out and getting the temporary housing. But like I said, it's a disaster to live in. Overpay for the housing for $250 million. You can house everybody for a year over there. You'll be able to get it done. And even if it costs double that, let's say if it costs $100 million, it's still $500 million. We're sending billions with a B to all these foreign interventions with your tax dollars, and citizens of the United States into Maui are being left out in the cold. And that's why you see the suicide rates really taking place. Yes, they're dealing with a lot of trauma and they've lost somebody, and they're not coming back, and the way that it was dealt. And to add to something you said before, like a natural disaster. Well, although people like, it wasn't a natural disaster, it happened. Whatever you feel, we definitely know this much. There was a breakdown of services from the states. There was major negligence, and a lot of people who died didn't have to die had they handled this situation properly. At the end of the day, so you can say whatever, it doesn't make a difference. These people were not at fault for what happened to them, and we need to find out a way to help them out. Did you have that clip, CheeseSlice? So here's me talking to Alfie. In the first Lahaina on Fire, California, that wasn't done over here.
Well, okay, I don't know if the training was done here or not. I'm just saying there wasn't anything done that would lead me to believe that there was a training. So when we did evacuations, we went street to street, house to house, and we forced everyone to leave their home. It wasn't an option like, oh, you want to stay? Okay, cool. No. It was like, hey, you got to go. Like, there's no staying here. I'm very sorry. And people would plead with us. Yeah. No, but it's my house. Oh my gosh, it's my beautiful house. Like, I'm sorry, I can't let you stay. Yeah, you got to go.
That was Alfie. Split up territory as a police officer. You go there, you go there. Stop it. That was Alfie talking about the negligence of what happens and what he experienced when he was in California, the way they would prep and train for a fire. And he said there was none of that in Maui, that they weren't knocking on doors, they didn't pick a section, they weren't pushing people out.
So he took it upon himself to basically act as the rescue squad. Is that kind of the gist of the and a couple other people, I guess?
There was not, I want people to go watch the movie to see exactly what he said. So please go to Pasta to Go to check out the movie and stuff. But he had to go try to save his own family. Everybody was left on their own to go look for their loved ones because there was no task force in there saying, get the hell out of here. Not even a car going down the street with a sticker saying, leave, the fire is coming. None of that was going on. These people were left to die. And in some situations, in some areas, the cops were blocking people from escaping the fire zone because they were told by their superiors that there were live wires behind them on the ground and the electricity had already been turned off. There was so much negligence. Guys, go watch the movie. The second one is going to be just as good, if not better. Lahaina on Fire. CheeseSlice has put it inside the chat.
Perfect.
Wyatt,
I want to watch that too.
Thoughts on today? Yeah, you got to watch it. You'll like it's some of my best work. So,
no, it looks great, and I mean, I was captivated. It seems like basically the state was not there, totally abdicated all responsibilities, left it to people like that to take over for. And I was fascinated to hear his next answer, so I'm gonna have to go watch this to find out, because you were asking him, were you coordinating this with the police? And I suspect, haven't seen it, but I suspect his answer is going to be no. So I'll have to watch and find out, and I'm looking forward to that. Final thoughts, man. It's some days it just looks very bleak. It really does. It looks like we're just really in kind of end times territory, where just terrible things happen every day, and just when you think it can't get worse, it somehow manages to get even worse. But I think that when we look back at these moments, I say with a bit of optimism, with my fingers crossed, when we look back 30, 40 years down the road, I think I hope that we're able to say, you know what, that was the moment when the world was changing, when it was shifting from this old fossil of a world order where the U.S. imposed its will on the rest of the world and people had no choice but to accept our ruling class's demands, to a world where there is power is more evenly distributed, more regionally distributed, where there isn't one big bad guy who can basically come in and force the entire rest of the globe to do what he wants. My way of looking at all of these terrible things and kind of keeping going is saying, these are the birth pangs of the new world, that all these terrible things, these unresolved issues that have been basically forced on the world over this post-war era of Western dominance, because that's what's happening in Israel. That's what's happening in Ukraine. These are proxies. These are kind of colonies of the West. And now they are serving their historical role in terms of this kind of warfare. And so my hope is that we're able to overcome these conflicts. We're able to look back at all of this one day and say, you know what, that was awful, but it was worth it because we managed to build something better when it was all said and done.
I hope so, brother. We can keep our fingers crossed for better days, more sunshine ahead. Thank you guys so much for all that you guys do. It's awesome to have the show. We're going to go Tuesdays and Thursdays around 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So you can check us here. We'll have the new setup soon. We're working diligently to get that rolling. But thank you guys to all who support. Thank you for all who have been watching the show from the get-go. Remember, Lahaina on Fire on Pasta To Go on the YouTube. It's there. Lahaina on Fire Volume 2 coming out soon. Probably the first week of January. We don't know. We're talking to George Dawson, the editor. He's also the camera guy. But thank you guys so much. For Craig Jardula Pasta here, we got Wyatt Reed and Jayme CheeseSlice on the 1s and 2s. We'll see you soon. Peace out, everybody.